This math summary is focused on calculating the area of triangles. We know that when we're calculating the area, we're looking at our long side and our wide side. We multiply the long side by the wide side for squares and rectangles. But a triangle is interesting because it's half. It's half of our square or half of our rectangle. And when we cut it in half, we only need the area of half of the shape. So we have a half. But what is the B and the H stand for? Why don't we have the length and the width, L and W, anymore when we're dealing with triangles? Let's have a think about what we're doing with a triangle that's different to a rectangle or a square. Whereas finding the area is the inside space of our rectangle and we multiply our long side by our wide side, in a triangle, we're still trying to find out how much space is inside that 2D shape, but we're multiplying half because it is half of a rectangle or a square shape. And we call it a B and an H for base times height. We can't really see which is the longest side there and which is the wide side. So what we're going to do now is change our L times W for length times width and make it B times H for base of our triangle and how high it is. That's the formula for a triangle every single time, and it would be really useful to write that for every single question to practice, to remind you of what you're doing. We've got our base and we've got our height. They're the ones we multiply, and we can't forget that we're actually cutting our shape, in this situation a rectangle, in half. We only need half of the area we would have calculated if it was the entire shape of a rectangle. So here you can see I've got a 12 centimetre base and an 8 centimetre height. So I multiply them, but I cut them in half. Now I can do it a few different ways. I can say A for area equals half times my base times my height. I write that formula every time. Is it half times 12 times 8? So is it half of 12, which is 6, times 8? 6 eighths are 48. Well, I could get 48. Or is it half of whatever 12 times 8 is? Well, 12 times 8 is 96, and when I cut it in half, I get 48. So you can see that it doesn't matter which one I cut in half, either cutting my base in half or multiplying my base and my height together and cutting that in half. You can choose which way.
If this short lesson is helping, imagine what over 200 just like it could do. Clear, quick, and confidence building. They're all waiting for you on our website. Now let's get back to it.
Here, my triangle is just flipped up, but I still can see my base and I can still see how high it is. Notice I don't need this measurement here. If you get a triangle that has 3 measurements for the 3 sides, we only need the base and the height. We don't need the diagonal measurement here. That's not useful for us when we're working out the area. So here we have half of our base times our height, half of 10 times 6. Now I can do half of 10 is 5. 5 times 6 is 30, or I can do 10 times 6. Put my base times my height together is 60 and cut that in half, and I still get the same answer of 30. I was talking here about centimetres, so my answer reflected that in centimetres squared. Here I'm talking about metres, so I make sure that I check that and my answer reflects metres squared. Well, when we're saying squared, what are we talking about again with area? We're talking about little centimetres or metres squared. We're also talking about putting a little 2. Even though we pronounce it squared, what's a great way or great 2 ways to remember to put that little 2? We can think of it as multiplying 2 different directions. Our base is multiplying by our height. That's 2 directions, and we can put a little 2. It's also only suitable to use this when we're dealing with 2-dimensional flat shapes. So that's another reason to put a little 2 for the 2D shapes. Now you can see I've got 9 for my base and 6 for my height for this triangle. I've put 2 different ways to sort it out because 9 is an odd number and cutting that in half might be tricky. So we could say it's half of our base times our height, which is half of 9 times 6. Now I can cut 9 in half and have 4 1/2 and times it by 6, which is 27. Or I can say half of base times height is half of 9 times 6. I'll multiply 9 times 6 and get 54 and cut that in half and get 27. So different ways to solve the same question. A worded question from a real life situation is a perfect chance for us to practice calculating the area. A triangular flag is 10 metres long and 5 metres high. How much material is used to make the flag? So I use my formula and then I fill it in. Half of, well, what's my base? It's 10 metres long. So that's my base, half of 10 times 5. Now here I've cut 10 in half is 5. Times 5 is 25 metres squared. So calculating a triangle's area is easy if we remember it's half of our base times our height.